23rd anniversary of the attacks of September 11th, 2001. As we begin, we kindly ask that you turn off your cell phone for the duration of the service. Today, we read the names of 219 Massachusetts loved ones lost on September 11th. As we listen to their names, we honor their memory and our national commitment to never forget. Behind each name is a unique person that was taken far too soon, and there are families and friends forever changed because of their loss. Please join us in quiet reflection as we listen to Josh Groban's To Where You Are, after which we will begin the name reading ceremony. Thank you.
Say for certain, maybe you're still here. I feel you all around me, your memory so clear. Deep in the stillness, I can hear you speak. You're still an inspiration. Can it be that you are mine forever, love, and you are watching over me from up above? Fly me up to where you are beyond the distant star. Tonight to see you smile, if only for a while to know you're there. A breath away is not far to where you are you gently sleeping here inside my dream? And isn't faith believing all power can't be seen? As my heart holds you just one beat away, I cherish all you gave me every day, 'cause you are mine forever, love, watching me from above. And I believe that angels breathe, and that love will live on and never leave. Fly me up to where you are beyond the distant star. I wish upon tonight
say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Please join us for a moment of silence. Thank you. Please take your seats.
Good morning. I will be reading a poem in honor of those taken from their loved ones on September 11, 2001. The poem, entitled We Remember Them, is often read as a responsive poem. After I read each line of the poem, I invite you to join me in reciting the phrase, "We remember them." At the rising of the sun and at its going down, we remember them. At the blowing of the wind and the chill in winter, we remember them. At the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. At the blueness of the skies and in the warmth of summer, we remember them. At the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. At the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. As long as we live, they too will live, for they are now a part of us. We remember them.
Stephen G. Adams. Gertrude Trudy Alajero. Anna S.W. Allison. Barbara Arestiki. Myra Joy Aronson. Yafet Aryeh. Louis Seth Aversano Jr. Garnet Ace Bailey. Christine Johanna Barbudo. Mark L. Bavis.
Graham Berkeley. David W. Bernard. Mark Bingham. Jeffrey D. Bittner. Susan Lee Blair. Kelly Ann Booms. Carol Marie Bouchard. Michael R. Canty. Christopher M. Karstanjan. Neely Ann Heffernan Casey.
William Casper. Swarna Kalasani. Stephen Cherry. Jeffrey William Cloud. Jeffrey D. Coleman. Kevin Patrick Connors. Jeffrey William Coombs. John J. Corcoran III. Frederick John Cox, Jr. Tara Kathleen Creamer.
Wells Remy Crother. Thelma Cuccinello. Patrick J. Curavan. Dorothy Alma Diaruzzo. Captain Gerald DeConto, United States Navy. Lieutenant Manuel DeVille, Jr., FDNY. Gerard Jerry P. Duane, FDNY. Simon Donani, David DeMiglio, Donald Americo Datillo.
Albert Pocho Dominguez. Jamie Lynn Fallon. Alexandra M. Filipov. John R. Fisher. Richard P. Fitzsimmons. Carol Ann Fleisick. Alan Freelander, and my dear friend Iris's brother, Paul Joseph Friedman.
Peter Christian Fry. Carlton Douglas By Fife. Thomas Edward Galvin. Douglas Gardner. Peter A. Gay. Winda May George. Edmund Glazier. Wynne Catherine Goodchild. Peter M. Goodrich.
And John Brett
Cahill,
my beloved brother.
You got it.
Lisa Fenn Gordenstein, Douglas A. Goel, Andrew Curry Green, Donald Freeman Green, Reverend Francis Edward Grogan, Philip T. Goza, Paige Farley Hackle, Maylie Hale, Carl Hammond, Christina Lee Hansen, Peter Burton Hansen, Sue Kim Hansen, Gerald Hardacre, Melissa Harrington Hughes, Eric Hartono, John C. Hartz, Peter P. Hashem, and my brother, Robert J. Hayes. Oops.
James E. Hayden, Roberta Bernstein Heber, Edward R. Hennessy Jr., Norberto Hernandez, Cora Hidalgo Holland, Herbert Wilson Homer, Matthew Horning, John Nicholas Humber, Eric Hans Isbranson,
Waleed Iskandar, Aaron J. Jacobs, Ariel Lewis Jacobs, Jason K. Jacobs, Robert Adrian Jalbert, Griselda E. Garrow James, Amy Nicole Jarrett, John Jenkins, and Todd R. Hill, who was only 4 floors above me when he was killed at the World Trade Center. We'll always remember you.
Oh, geez. Full speaker.
You're okay, don't you worry.
I have a loud enough voice. That's good, thank you. Joseph Jenkins Jr., Arthur Joseph Jones III, Colonel Charles Edward Jones, United States Air Force, Jennifer Lynn Kane. Robin L. Kaplan. Sergeant Robert M. Colfers, Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. Richard M. Keene. Barbara A. Keating. Ralph F. Kershaw. Brian Kevin Kinney. Glenn Davis Kerwin. David P. Kovalson. Catherine L. Labori. Judy C. LaRock. Natalie Janice Lasden. Robert G. Lerbank. Dong Lee. And my beloved son, William Christopher Hunt.
Joseph A. Lenahan. Jeffrey Levine. Daniel Lewin. Sarah Elizabeth Lowe, American Airlines flight attendant. Sean Patrick Lynch. Marianne McFarlane. Susan McElhaney McKay. L. Neil Mariani. Kenneth Joseph Marino, FDNY. Margaret Maddock. Kevin M. McCarthy. Juliana Valentine McCourt. Ruth Clifford McCourt. Michael Gregory McGinty. Kevin McMahon. Christopher Daniel Mello. Karen Ann Martin, American Airlines flight attendant.
Stuart Todd Meltzer. Raymond James Metz III. Martin P. Mickelstein. Master Special Officer Craig J. Miller, U.S. Secret Service. Antonio Montoya. Carlos Beto Montoya. Captain Thomas Moody, Fire Department of New York. Laura Lee DeFazio Morabito. Richard Morgan. Christopher M. Morrison. Brian Joseph Murphy. Mildred Rose Nyman. Sean M. Nasani. Lori Ann Olson Nera. Renee Detro Newell. Kathleen Ann Nicosia. Jacqueline Norton. And my beloved husband and father of Michelle and Robert, Joseph Mathai.
Robert Grant Norton. Captain John Oganowski, American Airlines. Leah E. Oliver. Seamus O'Neill. Betty Ann Ong, American Airlines flight attendant. Jane M. Orth, Michael Benjamin Packer, Marie Papalardo, Robert Pattison, Thomas Nicholas Pecorelli, Todd D. Polino, Barinthia Berenson Perkins, Jean Peterson, Dennis J. Pierce, Everett Marty Proctor III, Carrie Beth Progen, Patrick J. Quigley IV, First Officer Thomas F. McGinnis Jr., American Airlines.
Jonathan C. Randall, Timothy E. Riley, David Elliott Reddick, Venetia Richards, Fred Romelli, MD, Isaias Rivera, Valeska Martinez Rivera, Stephen L. Roach, Raymond James Rocha, Laura Rockefeller, Jean Destrahan Roger, Philip M. Rosenzweig, Richard Barry Ross, Michael Craig Rothberg, James M. Rue, Jessica Lee Sachs, Rama Salih, and my beautiful aunt and godmother, Sonia Mercedes Morales Papalo.
Jesus Jr. Sanchez, Matthew Carmen Salido, Kathleen Scherer, Robert M. Scherer, Antoinette Sherman, Jane Louise Simpkin, Heather Smith, Diane Bullis Snyder, American Airlines flight attendant, Eric Adam Stallman, Craig William Staub, Timothy C. Stout, Edward W. Strobe, Brian David Sweeney, Kevin T. Suzik, Deborah Tavalorella, Leonard Lenny E. Taylor, Michael Theodoritas, Madeline Amy Sweeney, American Airlines flight attendant, and my dear friend.
Eric Rick Thorpe, Alicia Nicole Titus, Amy E. Toyin, Daniel Trant, Jim Trentini, Mary Trentini, Tyler Ugelin, Michael Augustine Giuliano, Kenneth E. Waldy, Maida Fuller Waller, Stephen Ward, William Michael Weems, John J. Wenkus, Peter Matthew West, Staff Sergeant Maudlin A. White, U.S. Army, Candace Lee Williams, Christopher R. Zarba, Jr., and my beloved husband, Kenneth Albert Zellman.
When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joy we crave to share, we remember them. When we have decisions that are difficult to make, we remember them. When we have achievements that are based on theirs, we remember them. As long as we live, they too will live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them.
This concludes the first part of our ceremony. We invite you to join us in the chamber of the House of Representatives for the commemoration observance and Sweeney Award for Civilian Bravery. For those of you watching at home, you can switch to the second feed located on the Mass Fund website, where we will be showing tribute videos from past years. Thank you very much.
Could everyone rise, please, for the presentation of the colors? Will the Sergeant at Arms please escort the dignitaries into the chamber?
Madam Speaker, the Honorable Kim Driscoll, Lieutenant Governor of the Commonwealth, and the Honorable dignitaries.
I would like to welcome the dignitaries and would ask the Sergeant at Arms to please escort them into the chamber. Will the audience please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please retire the colors. The audience may be seated. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to our dignitaries, Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll, Secretary John Santiago, Deputy Attorney Moraine, Inspector General Jeff Shapiro, family, members, and friends. Thank you all for joining us here in the House chamber as part of the official Massachusetts 9/11 commemoration, where today we mark and honor the 23rd anniversary of the September 11th terrorist attacks. We gather in solemn remembrance of the tragic losses suffered on that day. As each anniversary of this devastating event arises, we remember again the events and feelings from that day and resolve anew to honor legacies and reaffirm ideals. The enormity of the attack and the loss on September 11th affected us all. It changed how we understand our place in the world and what it means to be an American. For those who lost family members and loved ones, the memories and the feelings experienced over the past 2 decades can be complicated and at times isolating. We'll hear more in a moment about the communities of care that came together to support those who lost loved ones after the unprecedented attack on 9/11. It is our hope that commemorations such as this one continue to serve as an expression of community care, where those who are grieving see that they are not alone and that there is strong support. With respect to the families, friends, loved ones, and all those touched by the tragedy, I welcome Teresa Mattei, a founding member of the Massachusetts 9/11 Fund and the first chair of the Family Advisory Committee. Teresa Mattei and her 2 children, 11-year-old Michelle and 8-year-old Robert, lost their husband and dad at the World Trade Center on September 11th, 2001. Teresa helped establish the Mass 9/11 Fund, and she served as chair of the Family Advisory Committee for its first 15 years. For the past 8 years, she has resided in California, but has flown in for the commemoration this year. She continues to support Mass 9/11 families as an active member of the Family Advisory Committee. Please welcome Teresa Mattei, family and MC.
Good morning and welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for the 23rd commemoration of 9/11 in Massachusetts. My name is Teresa Mattei, and I have had the pleasure and the privilege of being with the Massachusetts 9/11 Fund since its inception, and I serve on the Family Advisory Committee. On September 11, 2001, my husband Joseph was attending a conference in New York City at Windows on the World on the 106th floor of the North Tower. My husband and many of your loved ones and friends never came home to us that day, and we were all devastated. For the past 23 years, we have missed them. They will always remain in our hearts and on our minds, just a loving memory or thought away. Every year on this day, as we remember our loved ones, we reaffirm in the rising of the sun and its going down, we remember them. As long as we live, they too shall live, for they are now a part of us. When we woke up that glorious Tuesday morning of 9/11, who would imagine that a few hours later, our families would be broken and forever changed, and we would have to learn how to face the future without the love and support of our loved ones. We experienced waves of grief and a roller coaster journey of healing after the trauma of this very public, cataclysmic, and tragic loss of our family members and friends. We learned how to survive, baby step by baby step, how to heal while dealing with the daily ups and downs, and then, slowly, how to thrive and live a fulfilling life as our loved ones would want us to. We and the generations to come are their living legacy. We did not do this alone. From the very beginning, we were blessed with an outpouring of support and kindness, many branches of love reaching out to us from our families, friends, neighbors, even total strangers, and a whole community of caring professionals who saw us through some of the darkest moments of our lives and helped guide us to the light at the end of the tunnel. Soon after 9/11, corporations in Massachusetts rallied together to raise funds to help those impacted by these devastating terrorist attacks. They promptly sent their funds to New York City as the newly dubbed Ground Zero was in the news around the clock. They acknowledged that there would also be families impacted in DC as well as Pennsylvania, the other crash sites. Unfortunately, families with connection to Massachusetts who lost loved ones on the plane and crash sites had their own critical needs. Under the guidance of Senator Kennedy and other community leaders, local social workers and mental health professionals sprang into action. Many families here also had a sudden loss of income and financial burdens to deal with. It was time to help our very own. In the immediate aftermath of 9/11, the Red Cross, Salvation Army, Massachusetts Office of Victims Assistance, Catholic Charities, Boston Medical Center, the Children's Charter, the Children's Room, the Federal Department of Victims' Aid, and many other local social services, mental health agencies, churches, and synagogues join forces to try and help us navigate this biggest tragedy of our lives. A month later, on the 20th of October, I attended the Head of the Charles Regatta with my 11-year-old daughter, Michelle, and 8-year-old son, Robert, to cheer the Buckingham Brown and Nichols School team. My late husband, Joseph, had volunteered on the BB&N School Technology Committee, and I believe he was looking out for us from above, and that at the regatta, I met the right people at the right time to help us figure out our current situation and create a path forward when we desperately needed one. Eric McLeish, the father of Robert's classmate, approached me and offered the services of his law firm, Greenberg Traurig, to help me with my late husband's estate and plan for the future. Like many other 9/11 victims, Joseph had died without a will. I thanked Eric, but I hoped we could broaden this kind offer to include other Massachusetts 9/11 families. He mentioned that he and a small initial group of friends, including another school friend, Candy Altman, and Faith Arter, were working on it. As Eric mentioned when he spoke at this podium during the 10th commemoration, I handed him a very long list of all the needs of the family victims that I could think of. Eric shared that in that vein, they were discussing starting an organization to help the local families impacted by 9/11, primarily with legal, financial, and estate planning, as those needs were urgent. They would have a hotline where families could call in. I suggested we include the community of care and expand the organization beyond the hotline to a website and office space, so when grieving families called in with any needs, a social worker or mental health professional would take that call rather than a legal aid. They thought that was a good idea, and we worked on it behind the scenes for the next 2 months, till early January 2002, when the Massachusetts 9/11 Fund was incorporated as a 501c3. With Senator Kennedy's help, we finally got access to the complete list of local Massachusetts families impacted. We went public and invited other family members to participate, meet each other, and share their concerns. A professional board and a family advisory committee were instituted. The Family Advisory Committee would discuss the latest issues or need of the day and pass it on to the board. The board would then move mountains and work miracles to make sure it happened. They helped facilitate the Boston Public Garden Memorial, the Remembrance Book, speaker programs and seminars, and many other meaningful programs that were very healing for our families. And now, a personal story from my own community that took care of our family. When the news of our loss spread, many neighbors and friends offered their support. Some offered to mow the lawn and do yard work. Our school, BB&N, set up a meal train for us. School parents took turns driving my kids to school and providing school lunches. Our family was humbled by the many kind offers of help as people tried to anticipate our needs. I started attending Massachusetts 9/11 Fund Advisory Committee, as well as board meetings, and had a few television interviews too. One day, our regular babysitter called in sick at short notice. That's when I remembered, among the many offers of help, a family friend named Simon had kindly offered to look after my kids if I ever needed babysitting. I called him, and he immediately threw his 4-year-old daughter, Isabel, over his shoulder and hurried over. Michelle and Robert took an instant liking to them and would not go to bed. Simon then struck a deal with them. If they could beat him in a game of chess, they could stay up an extra half hour. Of course, he made sure to lose, just so he could play with them some more. When I got back very late from my interview, the kids were in bed, and surprise, surprise, the big stack of dishes in my kitchen sink were washed and dried. Needless to say, Michelle, Robert, and I started looking forward to our regular babysitter dropping out at short notice. We knew exactly who to call. Fast forward many years, Simon and I Brady bunched our kids, and 8 years later, when our youngest went off to college and we were empty nested, the two of us moved to California. This year, I'm happy to say, Simon and I celebrated our 11th wedding anniversary. Thank you. Joseph must be beaming down on us from heaven. 2 days before 9/11, when Simon came over for a birthday dinner, Joseph had remarked that he was so impressed. He thought Simon was a brilliant and impressive young man. He was the one who introduced us to Simon. Simon, I know you are watching the simulcast at some unearthly hour in California. You showed up in our lives just when I was glad to delegate the let's throw ice down your back and wrestle on the lawn games with 8-year-old Robert. And I clearly remember the day I called in panic, and you came over as soon as you could to help find our escaped hamster. I did not want the kids to deal with yet another loss, so I hoped the hamster would be back in his cage by the time they got back from school, and all would be well with our little world without any meltdowns. You asked little Isabel where she would go if she were an escaped hamster. She got down on her knees, looked around, then headed straight to the heating vents and pointed out, "There he is." Simon, Michelle, Robert, and I want to thank you for your support and kindness all these years. You and Isabel played an integral part in our healing journey. We made a formidable team as we healed together and forged our fun-loving, blended family. And last, but not the least, I would like to acknowledge my other family, my fellow Family Advisory Committee members. You suffered your own great losses, and while grieving and healing, you found comfort and solace in helping others through your work on the Family Advisory Committee. I would also like to thank our board chair and volunteer executive director, Faith Arter, our board of directors, and other former Massachusetts 9/11 staff for warmly embracing the Massachusetts 9/11 families in our hour of need and for helping us navigate the maze that was our lives. Any board members or Family Advisory Committee members, former staff, or community of care here with us today, would you please stand so we can acknowledge your caring support for our families all these years? Please stand. There are many of you still sitting, but you get thanked too. Thank you for your tireless dedication and continued commitment to supporting us. And now, please welcome the Andover Chorale Society under the direction of Matthew Warner.
So I was the one with all the glory, while you were the one with all the strength. A beautiful face without a name, a beautiful smile to hide the pain. Did you ever know that you're my hero, and everything I would like to be? I can fly higher than an eagle, 'cause you are the wind beneath my wings. You are the wind nothing without you. Did you ever know that you're my hero? You're everything I wish I could be. I could fly higher than an eagle, 'cause you are the wind beneath my wings. Did I ever tell you you're my hero? You're my everything, everything I wish I could be. And I could fly higher than an eagle. If you are the wind beneath my wings. Beneath my wings. See me fly. See me fly, see me fly, see me fly. See me fly, see me fly, see me fly. Won't you fly? Won't you fly? Won't you fly? Won't you fly? Fly. Won't you fly high? Fly high. Won't you fly
Now for our keynote speaker. Though we had a vast community of care to embrace us in our time of need over the years, Deborah Rivlin from Boston Medical Center's Good Grief program and later the Children's Room touched our hearts in a very special way. She symbolizes to us a warm, comforting embrace, our guardian angel, as some of us like to call her. From early December 2001, Deborah facilitated the Circle, a few support groups for different constituents. Over the years, she has evolved from support group facilitator and volunteer at Massachusetts 9/11 Fund events to personal friend. She was the glue that helped us keep in touch socially many years after the support groups officially stopped being funded, and she continues to keep in touch with us as a group as well as individually via email or phone call, coffee or lunch, to commiserate with us during the ongoing tough world events that trigger us, and also to share our personal news and happy milestones. She has been invited to many of our remarriages. It came as no surprise when this year, as we acknowledge a wonderful community of care, we immediately thought we would love to hear from her. Unfortunately, due to personal reasons, Deborah Rivlin was not able to join us in person today. So please turn your attention to the video to hear from her.
I am so sorry that I cannot be with you all today, but my heart is with you, your families, and all who love someone who was killed in the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001. I had the honor of working with many family members through my role at the Good Grief program at Boston Medical Center. beginning in November 2001. With the help of Senator Kennedy, his office sent letters to parents of children and teens who had a parent die, offering a bereavement support program called The Circle. With the assistance of trained volunteers, we established age-appropriate bereavement support groups for the children while their parents met in their adult group. Each week, every family lit a candle in memory of their parent and shared a special memory, such as their dad or mom's favorite food or a cherished family activity. Through the sharing of these memories, we all learned about how their loved ones lived and what they enjoyed. The children were then divided into age-appropriate groups to engage in various activities focused on understanding, grieving, commemorating, and going on living a full life while remembering their parent. These activities aim to build resilience, foster sharing, and teach coping skills that the children could use throughout their lifetime. They learn that loss and going on are intertwined like a braid. We continue living while remembering, aware that certain days and times can trigger our grief and loss throughout our lifetime. Going on does not mean forgetting or loving any less. It is about integrating the loss into our lives. We don't get over our loss, we learn to live with it. From that initial group, we were able to offer additional support groups: an adult group, a widows group, a parent group, a sibling group, and periodic lunches for the in-laws whose son or daughter-in-law died and they were supporting their children. Like the family group, these groups shared memories, coping strategies, and ways to commemorate the lives of those who died. Many families have found ways to honor and commemorate their loved ones, such as participating in the 9/11 Day of Service, the Amy Sweeney Award, road races, golf tournaments, scholarships, sharing their stories in classrooms, and the Massachusetts Memorial Garden, just to name a few. How do we honor the lives of those who died on 9/11? Your family members. What would they want for you and their families? For you to live life fully, seeing their children grow and prosper, not just survive, but thrive. I remember meeting the babies born after 9/11, some of whom graduated from college this year, living life to the fullest. Many of the children are now married, have children, and are working in their chosen professions. How proud their parent who died would be of them. This honors their memory. Sharing the stories of their lives, we honor those who died, remembering them and ensuring their legacy lives on. Like the resilience of the survivor tree, their legacies live on in their family, friends, and all who loved them.
Deborah, I know you must be watching the simulcast. Thank you for bringing us together to create a family of shared experience and loving support. You will always be remembered with gratitude for the gift of kindness and healing that you have shared with us over the years. Thank you, Deborah. Through careful strategic planning and input from the Family Advisory Committee, the Massachusetts 9/11 Fund Board and staff reached out to a supportive network of caring professionals, mental health and social services to guide us and help us access services and funds being offered by the state and through fundraisers. We refer to these wonderful professionals as a community of care. They not only helped us in the early days, but some continue to do so. Our children were also offered a range of services, from Tuesday's Children mentorships, the annual camp, Project Common Bond, and America's Camp, where they made lifelong friends. I was thrilled to hear that recently my son Robert officiated at his friend John's wedding. His best friend he met at camp at age 9. All the services we were offered were invaluable to us. A big thank you to our community of care for extending to us the arms of support and comfort. Today, as we acknowledge the amazing branches of love reaching out to us from our community of care, who continue to support us on our healing journey, this afternoon, we hope you will join us at 1:30 p.m. at the Boston Public Garden 9/11 Memorial in the shade of that beautiful Gallery Bear survivor tree. We used to refer to it as a sapling ever since it was planted and dedicated 10 years ago. Every year, with great fondness, we notice how much it has grown and flourished. And now it has reached new heights. Its journey began, much like ours, in tragedy at Ground Zero. After the terrorist attacks in October 2001, it was found severely damaged and broken, with snapped branches and broken roots. It was removed from Ground Zero and placed in the care of New York City Parks and Recreation. Today, the survivor tree, standing tall in the Boston Public Garden, is a loving reminder of resilience, survival, and rebirth, and it epitomizes all the care and support we received along the way that has brought us so far. Please turn your attention to the video about our community of care and the branches of loving support that reached out to us.
What was once a slight, fragile sapling in 2014, a descendant of the one surviving tree at the World Trade Center, has become a reminder of that agonizing day. But more importantly, that sapling, now our survivor tree at the Boston Public Garden, stands proudly and resolutely, extending its branches of love as a symbol that we have withstood the pain, endured, and grown ever stronger. We are rooted in resilience. But we could not have done it without our families and friends, new and old. Here are some of those stories of the people who were, and still are, in our community of care. Cindy McGinty, her husband Mike, and their 2 sons met Chris Mitchell when the McGintys went to sign the boys up for Cub Scouts.
I was the scoutmaster and always was trained in scout leader training to always look for your replacement. So we met at the Bethany Church as a group. Mike was a deacon there, an Annapolis grad, so I was psyched. There was my replacement. I made sure to introduce myself to both of them, welcome the boys in.
But 5 days later, Cindy and the boys lost their husband and father.
Right after that, I heard somebody cutting my grass and looked out the front window, and there was Chris cutting my grass. I was like, what the heck is going on?
And when Cindy started the McGinty Family Fun Day in Foxborough, Chris and his wife Paula were right by her side.
We did the McGinty Family Fun Day, and I wanted to have a scholarship in Mike's name to reward high school students for community service. And we would offer a great day for families to come together and just have fun, because that's what Mike liked to do with his kids. He liked to have fun. I moved to Connecticut, and Chris and Paula stepped up and basically took it over. I still came back to help with the day and stuff, but Chris and Paula really took it over.
But the forever friendship between Cindy and Chris was still evolving. Chris saw a need for a 9/11 memorial in Foxborough and formed a nonprofit, Foxborough Never Forgets, to get the memorial beautifully and thoughtfully done.
I mean, it tells the entire story in one place so that in perpetuity, children and adults in Foxborough will never forget what happened that day. It took so many hands to put it together that were volunteers, so many volunteer hours, and so many people funded it through pennies and nickels and dimes and large donations and small donations. After the memorial was built and after Family Fun Day and all of that, I've always had this conundrum. And it's a conundrum I still have today. Like, how do you pay forward the sacrifice that a lot of these men and women made enlisting in the service after 9/11? And I had a friend that worked at Homes for Our Troops, which builds adaptive housing. And I heard about an opening there, and I thought, this has Chris written all over it.
Yeah, well, Cindy was 100% right again. It is such a powerful mission to be able to help the servicemen and women that were injured in Iraq and Afghanistan. And, you know, through the gracious donors and supporters we have, we've been able to build almost 400 homes in 20 years.
Like the survivor tree, I aspire to that, and I try to do that every single day. I hope that I succeed in my life, and that at the end of my life, people say she was just like the survivor tree. She survived and she extended her branches to help other people. That's my life goal.
Joyce Eng is an advocate for those who survived 9/11, yet experienced the trauma of the attacks. Joyce has led the effort to have saplings of the survivor tree planted in Italy and in her hometown of Framingham.
My connection to 9/11 is I was at the World Trade Center on September 11th. I spent about many years interviewing survivors to make sure we preserve the history of those that were there that day. When the National 9/11 Museum started a program to give back and also give a sapling of the tree to other communities around the whole globe that had endured tragic events, I was very interested. So I traveled with my family to Italy, and I was with a professor of the University of Bologna, and he mentioned that there was a 9/11 park in Italy, and I was like blown away. So I nominated not only the city of Bologna and Italy to receive a sapling of the tree to be planted in their park.
Questo albero, questo survivor tree, sia arrivato a Bologna.
I nominated the sapling of the tree to the city of Framingham. Framingham lost 17 lives on September 11th, and one of those lives was a special person to me, Todd Hill. He was from Framingham. The tree is planted in the beautiful Cushing Park across from the 9/11 memorial that was built there by the city of Framingham. It symbolizes resilience, of survival, of living on despite enduring such a tragic event. So it is really a symbol of hope.
Candy Altman is a former board member of the Massachusetts 9/11 Fund. She was designated to lead the effort to build a memorial for our loved ones. Her first order of business was simply to listen to us.
The families wanted a place that they could visit. You know, they wanted a place where they could come themselves, where they could bring other family members, where they knew that their loved ones would be remembered. So when we were trying to figure out where we wanted this to be, our first choice was the public garden, right? Because the public garden is the public garden. It's the most beautiful physical space in Boston.
There were some hurdles to overcome, but we had the best possible advocate. Mayor Menino paved the way for a meeting with a representative from the Parks Department.
So we walked around And the very first thing we did was we went to this corner, right? And the first thing he says to us is, this corner's a mess. This is a mess. We really need to fix it up. And so Mary Kakis and I are kind of like, ding, ding, ding. You know, you stand here and you look out and you see the weeping willows and you see the swan boats and you see the water, and it's just, it was to us the most perfect setting for this. Everything, including what was written on the memorial, was very tightly controlled by the families. Everything from the design to the type of typeface to the type of stone, the color of the stone, the poem that was in the middle, all of those things. It was just really important that the families felt comfortable about what was happening. I hope the memorial is a healing space for the families. That's my greatest hope, is that, you know, all these years later, when they come to the memorial, that it somehow brings them peace, that it gives them a sense that their loved ones are not forgotten, and that they know that they will always be remembered.
The Massachusetts 9/11 Fund has a mission to educate this and future generations about the impact the 9/11 attacks had on our families and communities across the Commonwealth. To accomplish this, the fund has made available for educators a free teaching resource, complete with videos, learning guides, and homework assignments. Mark Bavis is one of those that we lost. His brother Pat of the Education Committee is one of our several family members who has taken the education and teaching resources straight into the classrooms.
We want to basically give a time frame of how all the events happened that day, how it affected the families from Massachusetts, and you know what's come out of it. The heavy lifting's already done because all the key information is there about 9/11. The 9/11 teaching curriculum basically was built because we don't want anybody to ever forget.
And for the students to hear that critically important message, we need support from educators like Rick Swanson.
It's imperative for us as educators to make sure they understand why and how, they understand the details. But it also leaves us with a sense of hope in terms of how we can overcome those tragedies and deal with enormous loss, and how terrible events can also bring us together.
Almost 23 years ago, my life changed completely. My life and my family changed, and it changed for the world. You guys weren't born yet, and hopefully the message that you get out of this today is, you know how our country has been impacted, but how you can still make a change in the world every day, and especially on 9/11, because 9/11 is a day of service.
Pat's ability to retain hope and resilience and perseverance and still look for the good out of that tragedy is a really inspiring message that all of our students should hear.
So, as you can see, our survivor tree, perhaps even our survival itself, is reflected in our community of care, people who also filled an empty space by extending their branches of love, holding out their arms not only to support us, but to sustain us, to help make us whole again. To all of you, a sincere thank you.
Good morning. My name is Pat Hoban. I'm on the Family Advisory Committee. Probably about 8 or 10 years ago, Diane Hunt found this poem that I am going to read. This is a time to cherish, a time to come together in tribute and thanksgiving, a time to hear all the tender, charming stories, a time to revel in 1,000 beautiful moments, a time to capture once more the visions of that smile, a time to embrace the last of your beloved, and to memorize for all time the gift of one precious life. And now, will you please turn your attention to the screens for a montage, a tribute montage of our loved ones. Thank you.
One of my favorite memories of Anna comes from a time just before September 11, when we were vacationing together on an island in Penobscot Bay off the coast of Maine. I have a picture from that time that I look at and can never help but feel better. Her joy is infectious, and I give thanks for that time we spent together.
Way up high, and the dreams that you dream of once in a lullaby. Oh, somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly.
I can really say that she was my best friend. And because she'd known me for so long, she really was my touchstone. I think that's the thing I missed the most.
To date, we have no remains of my brother John, so I believe he is in the sunsets, for it is the particles in the ozone that make the sunset's colors.
On a Saturday morning, he would get up and he would ask the kids, just give me time to have my coffee and read the Globe, and then I'm all yours. And they'd play a game called Push Daddy Off the Couch, and he'd be laying on the couch, and all three of them would pile on him and see what they could do about getting him off the couch. And it became a game that they played on a regular basis, and the laughter in the house would just be unbelievable. And that's one thing I noticed after Jeff died, was that I missed the most, was the laughter that he caused.
Jay was a fun, loving, and devoted family man. Quick with a laugh, a friend to so many, and living life to the fullest. He traveled extensively around the world, but his heart was always at home with us in Norwell, Massachusetts. He loved sports, music, and the sea, and we miss him every day.
Well, I see skies of blue and I see clouds of white and the brightness of day. I like the dark and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people passing by. I see friends shaking and singing.
He always liked to be in the yard, cutting the grass. Good old Italian, he loved to cut the grass, take care of the garden, and have vegetables. Not me. That was his job.
They'll learn much more than we'll know, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Someday I wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind.
My brother was such a wonderful, glowing person, and a very caring, compassionate man. He was volunteering with organizations like the Corporate Angel Network that flew cancer patients to treatment for free on corporate jets.
Way up high, and the dreams that you dare to, why, oh why can't I?
The one thing that has stuck with me is my grandma's last words to me and my brother. She said, "Promise me when I'm gone, you two won't grow up one bit."
I told Bill, "I need a sign from you, honey, knowing that you are okay." Soon after, I started to find a penny here and there in the most unusual places. It often happened when I was thinking a lot about him on a particular day. This was my sign, and it continues to be so.
Harry was everybody's favorite, an attractive, successful, funny, warm, smart, creative, spontaneous. He was so excited that his first child might be born on his birthday, September 16th. He never knew that his son was born the day after.
One of my favorite memories of my mom was when she went grocery shopping. She would always bring me like a tiny bit can of sweetened condensed milk. I was always looking out for that. She was always telling me when she got home, "Oh, I forgot it," but she was only kidding because she knew that she couldn't forget my sweet condensed milk.
I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. When I am on your shoulders, you raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders.
My husband Joseph was very engaging and charismatic. He had the gift of the gab. All these years later, I see him in his kids, who his pride and his joy. His daughter is kind and caring like he was, while his son can charm a room with his extemporaneous and humorous speeches. We will never forget him, his disarming smile and his booming laugh.
I'm on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be.
Spend all your time waiting for that second chance, for a break that would make it okay. There's always some reason to feel not good enough, and it's hard at the end of the day. I need some distraction. Oh, beautiful release. Memories seep from my veins. Let me be empty. Oh, weightless, and maybe I'll find some peace tonight.
Our family and friends used to joke and ask if our father was a pilot dressed up as a farmer or a farmer dressed up as a pilot. He had his two loves, farming and flying. Above all else, he loved his girls, our mother and my two sisters. We talk about him and share his stories and keep his photographs around our homes so that he's always with us. He was taken from us, but the memory and legacy he left is stronger than ever.
My mom cared very much for animals. She adored her own cats and would help strays by putting an opening in a garage to feed them and get them out of the elements. She is truly missed, and like all of our loved ones, they will never be forgotten.
My brother was a great listener, and he offered much comfort and advice. And the wonderful part of it all was that if you chose your own path, it was always okay. He had no enemies, only friends, and he touched the lives of everyone he met. He made everyone feel special. I had the pleasure of spending a long weekend with my brother during a business trip to California. In a matter of a few days, he shared the world with me. The years between us had become days. Tommy was the youngest of 5 children and the only son. Tommy, you are always in our hearts.
That you make up for all that you lack. It don't make no difference. Escape one last time. It's easier to believe in this sweet memory.
My brother was the person whose advice I listened to most because he had gone through it all and I trusted him. He was the person who, after a long night of doubt and fear, helped me see a beautiful sunrise and a glimpse into heaven to let me know that all was well with him and his God.
There is a street named after my brother Richard, just off of Boylston Street and 1 block from Fenway Park. There is also a small garden in his memory at the base of the street Richard lived on in Newton with his family. Richard was the man that could walk into a room and his being filled the room. He was very loving as a son, husband, father, brother, and uncle. He put himself into everything he did. His achievements were many. He is missed every day and his presence is with us every day. He is my light that guides me.
He traded in his snowboard for Bruno Magli's shoes and his Jerry Garcia shirt for a Brooks Brothers suit. Matthew's smile was electric, and it was the first thing everyone noticed when they met him.
I think one of the last things that Heather and I did prior to 9/11, it was refurbishing a dollhouse that I had built for her in 20 years beforehand when she was a little kid. And it was one of the great satisfactions and one of the best feelings that I think I ever had doing it together, working on the house together. And I think that life just really doesn't get much better than experiencing times like that.
Amy Sweeney and I were flight attendants together. Amy was this unbelievable spark. Wherever we flew to, Amy was in search of the perfect margarita. She just was a light, she was, and she brought so much happiness and joy and laughter, and I take it as a great honor to know that I was part of a small, little, tiny inkling of her life.
You don't have to be afraid of what you are. There's an answer if you reach into your soul, and the sorrow that you know will melt away. And then a hero comes along with the strength to carry on, and you cast your fears aside, and you know you can survive. So when you feel like hope is gone, look inside you and be strong, and you'll finally see the truth.
Dad, you were taken from us much too soon. We love you and we miss you more than words can say. Mom is doing very well, happy, healthy. She lives close by and we see her often, and we all take care of each other. You have 5 beautiful and amazing grandchildren.
We have and will continue to share with them great stories and memories about their grandfather, our dad. We hope that you are watching over all of us with a big smile on your face.
Search within yourself, and the emptiness you felt will disappear. strength to carry on, and you cast your fears aside, and you know you can survive. So when you feel like
3 months before she died, I had given birth to my daughter, and everyone thought that she was going to be a boy. So when I had a girl, people were ecstatic, and my mom was just super, super excited because she finally got to shop for a little girl. But I was very adamant that I didn't want Amelia to wear pink. So my mom was always trying to find the most girly blue things for Amelia. And I would say it was about maybe a week or two after she died that my dad and I finally got the courage to open the back of her car. And in the back of her car, we found about, I would say, 10 to 12 bags from like Filene's and Macy's. And in each bag were different types of blue dresses for Amelia because my mom had been stockpiling them.
The summer after 9/11, we noticed that my aunt was sending butterflies, and we were able to notice this because our backyard was filled with hundreds of them, and only black and yellow butterflies. I graduated a couple weeks ago, right about as they began calling names, yellow and black butterfly, and then my mom told me that it came to her after it went by me. Whenever we see the black and yellow butterflies, we know that they're from her.
Every year, we come together to acknowledge and remember Madeline Amy Sweeney and pay tribute to a local hero. At this time, it is my pleasure to welcome Governor Healy and Lieutenant Governor Driscoll to award this year's recipient.
Thank you, Teresa, and thank you, Pat, for your words, for your devotion to this community. Thank you to the Speaker, to the Senate President, to our legislators and dignitaries. Good morning to our guests, military veterans, first responders, and clergy. Secretary Reedy, Secretary Santiago. Thank you all for coming together to uphold this unique and extremely important Massachusetts tradition. To our honored guests, the family members of those cherished loved ones whose names we read this morning, on behalf of our entire state, it is a privilege and an honor for all of us to be able to pay tribute to them and to you today. We thank you for all the ways you have shared their spirit to make this world a better place. 9/11 changed America, changed our world, it changed Massachusetts forever. The attack brought grief and trauma, but the response of those closest to the pain, the survivors, the first responders, the families, showed us America's ability to persevere and our resilience as a people and nation. They taught us that good wins out when we rely on our bonds with one another. The strength of our community gets us through even the worst of times. On September 11th, 2001, we saw ordinary people rise to incredible acts of selfless courage for their fellow humans. And we learned just how dearly so many of our residents are held in the hearts of their families, their friends, and communities to this very day. Today we stand here 23 years later, and the lives of all who were lost continue to teach us, to inspire us. That happens through the devotion of their loved ones and this community of care. The stories of the lives that I think show us the ideals and the foundational values we all need to strive for. They're stories that we need to continue to share with each rising generation so they benefit from understanding those ideals and those values. The Madeline Amy Sweeney Award is how we recognize the transformative, positive impact of these stories, how we keep this knowledge alive and how we pass it on. And I want to thank Anna and the Sweeney family for continuing to share your mother's profound legacy with all of us through this award. Each fall, we rededicate ourselves to our highest ideals by honoring the courage of those who were lost and celebrating the heroic acts of our neighbors today. I'd now like to invite the Lieutenant Governor, as chair of the selection committee, to come forward and say more about how we do that this year.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you to the Sweeney family and all the 9/11 families. This is truly a heartfelt and special day. Thank you for allowing us to honor your loved ones. Thank you to the fellow members of the selection committee. Many of you know the story of the Sweeney Award, but I think it's always worth retelling and reinforcing the brave and strategic actions. Amy Sweeney was an American Airlines flight attendant who lived in Acton with her husband, Michael, and their 2 young children. On September 11th, she was working on American Airlines Flight 11. At great personal risk, with poise and grit in the face of unimaginable danger, Amy contacted the ground crew to convey critical information about the hijackers. She alerted the world to the threat before losing her own life in this terrible act. The Madeline Amy Sweeney Award memorializes her courageous actions along with the selfless spirit of so many who were lost on September 11th. It recognizes the exceptional civilian bravery by people who, without regard for their own personal safety, acted to save the lives of others. This year, the Massachusetts 9/11 Fund honors the Sweeney family's community of care. Because of Amy's heroic actions, she's an original member of that community of care. And it's fitting that we now pay tribute to another caring person with the Madeline Amy Sweeney Award for civilian bravery. On December 18th, 2023, at approximately 8 a.m., the Wales, Massachusetts Police Department responded to a call for a fire on Stafford Holland Road. Upon arrival, the officer found a home fully engulfed in flames and a non-responsive elderly woman lying outside on the ground, being attended to by an elderly man and an adult woman. The elder couple were Andre and Madeline Bouchard, husband and wife, and the homeowners. The woman assisting them was Jillian Smith. Jillian was a neighbor, and prior to the officer's arrival, Jillian was alerted to the fire at her neighbor's home, which at the time was engulfed in flames. She just put her baby down for a nap, and she ran outside to help. She didn't think twice about doing so. When she got there, she found Andre trying to go back inside to save his wife, but he couldn't find her. So Jillian, again without concern for her own personal safety, entered the burning building. Not once, but twice. The first time she entered, she was overcome by heat and smoke, but she went back and re-entered, this time low to the ground, and crawled her way through the flames. Jillian found Madeline unconscious on the floor and proceeded to drag her from the burning home to the front patio to safety. In these selfless efforts to help her neighbors, Jillian Smith acted without hesitation in the face of extreme danger, and she saved their lives. I'd like to invite the governor back to the podium, along with Jillian and Anna Sweeney, so we can recognize Jillian for this selfless act.
Well, thank you so much, Lieutenant Governor, and all of the members of the committee, the nominators who shared Jillian's story. And it's wonderful to be here this morning, and I want to thank our Speaker Pro Tem, Kate Hogan, for always being here to support this event and to support families, and for opening up this beautiful house and chamber to all of us this morning for this ceremony. Jillian, you exemplified an incredible act of selflessness, of courage, of bravery. It's the bravery that the Sweeney family understands and admires. It's something we all admire, literally running into a burning building, not once, but twice, to save a life. It's incredible, and we are so grateful to you. We're obviously very proud of you, but thank you for giving us the honor, and it is an honor, to present this year's Madeline Amy Sweeney Award to Jillian Smith.
Thank you so much. Congratulations. Thank you. Yeah, come over here. Sorry if I'm in the way.
Amazing.
Thank you so much. I would like to thank everybody for the opportunity to be here today. It's such an honor. It was scary doing something so dangerous, having my baby and my family at home waiting for me. But I'm grateful that my neighbors are alive and well. I would hope others would do the same for those in need, just as Madeline Amy Sweeney did, and I would do it all again in a heartbeat. Thank you.
Jillian, this is who is Madeline Amy Sweeney's daughter. Oh, okay, just making sure you guys got this.
Thank you.
If you want to leave that here, we can get it.
Father Jack Graham, as he says last but not least, is a pastor from St. Joseph's Church in North Plymouth, and also St. Joseph's Church, Kingston. He will give the benediction. Please welcome him.
September 11, 2001 changed the world for all of us who were alive to witness the events of that day. Those events transformed the world that would be inherited by our future generations. 23 years later, we gather here to remember and to pray. We remember the terrible events of that day. remember and pray for our brothers and sisters, our neighbors and our friends who lost their lives. Remember with great gratitude those who stepped up to respond to that tragedy, our firefighters, police officers, and all first responders. Remember those everyday citizens who responded to tragedy with grace, compassion, and love. We read this in the Gospel of St. Mark. When Jesus returned to Capernaum after some days, it was reported that he was at home. So many gathered around that there was no longer room for them, not even at the front door, and he was speaking the word to them. Then some people came, bringing a paralyzed man, carried by 4 of them. And they could not bring him to Jesus because of the crowd. So they removed the roof above him, and after having dug through it, they let down the mat on which the paralytic lay. When Jesus saw their faith, he said to the man, "Son, your sins are forgiven. I say to you, stand up, take your mat, and go home." And he stood up, and he immediately took the mat and went out before all of them. In this story, the paralytic is cured by Jesus, not because of his own faith, but because of the faith of his friends. Jesus watches as these men carry their friend on a mat through a large crowd. Finding no way into the house, they carry him to the roof, remove the tiles, and lower him down. It was their efforts that allows the grace of God to break into the world and change that man's life. On September 11, 2001, in the midst of great horror and death, we witnessed so many step up to carry the mats of others. In the days, months, and years since, many have continued to do so. This day we ask God to help us to be people who remember. We don't want to forget what happened. We also want not to forget the heroic, selfless actions of so many. We want to remember so that we are able to see past our differences, cultural, religious, political, and see within the other the very image of God, so that we can treat all others with the appropriate respect, dignity, and love. This September 11th, I pray that God may help us to follow the example of the friends of the paralytic in Mark's Gospel. I pray that God will bless all those who dedicate themselves to helping to carry their brothers and sisters. I pray that all of us, with the help of God, may be people willing to carry the mats of others. May God bless you.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us. Above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. This is hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for.
Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one.
Thank you all for being here today. On behalf of Massachusetts 9/11 families, I hope that today's ceremony has brought honor, comfort, and a renewed sense of spirit to all those present. May God bless all those who are missing and remembered today. May God bless the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the United States of America. Thank you. And never forget 9/11. This ceremony has come to a close. Please stand as the Sergeant at Arms escorts our dignitaries from the chamber, and a special thank you to the Governor, Maura Healey, for being here today.